And I got a phone call randomly and he said, Michael Bublé wants to talk to you. I went, okay. And then 5 minutes later, I got a call from an unknown number.
Marcella Puppini is the founding member of the world-renowned Puppini Sisters and a prolific creator in her own right. In this episode, we take a journey through the Puppini Sisters' 20-year career, from million-pound record deals and working with Michael Bublé to challenges such as internal conflicts and starting their own record label. We also discuss some of Marcella's other projects, her thoughts on the electro swing scene, and much, much more right here on the Electro Swing Podcast. Marcella,
Hello,
thank you very
Ollie.
much. Hey, thank you very much for joining us.
Very happy to be here.
Amazing. Well, it's great to have you. So first question for anyone who isn't familiar with you already, if you could just very briefly explain who you are and a little bit about your music in your own words, please.
Cool. I'm Marcella Puppini. I am the founder and leader of vocal trio, the Puppini Sisters. So the Puppini Sisters are a 3-part close harmony vocal group. We're a jazz band because we're all jazz musicians. In fact, most of us met at music college. But we specialize in music in the sound of the 1940s. So the golden era of jazz, the hot jazz.
Yeah.
And specifically particular kind of harmony, which is known as close harmony, where literally the 3 singers are never further apart than a third from each other. That way you get very, very crunchy harmonies. What we do is swing. So we swing in close harmony. Bring me a dream, making the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him 2 lips, like roses and clover, and tell him that it's awesome nights on the summer. I'm so alone, don't have nobody to call my own.
We'll cover all of that in more detail a little bit later. But first of all, I just want to talk about you and how you first got into making music.
I started playing the piano at the age of 5.
Wow.
Because my mum saw me at kindergarten plinky plonking on an old piano, and the next day I was taking lessons and we had a piano at home. I always really, really loved music. When I was a teenager at 12, I was convinced that I was going to be an opera singer. I started memorizing a whole lot of Italian operas and just making it up. Like, I didn't take lessons, but I was, as a kid, you think you can do everything, right? So I did.
Yeah.
And then I actually auditioned to be part of the choir of the Bologna Opera House, but unfortunately, having not taken lessons, I failed the audition at 16,
right, okay.
And that sort of put an end to my aspiration. Like, it really broke my heart a little bit, so I didn't do anything after that. I finished my A-levels in Greek and Latin, which was entirely unrelated to music.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I came to London, and in London, I actually, for some reason, decided to go and study fashion at St. Martin's.
Okay.
And then I briefly worked for Vivienne Westwood, but the niggly thing about being a singer just continued. And I was always going to talent contests at the time, which was hilarious. And I was always finding opportunities to sing. And eventually I just had to pursue it. So I quit my job without any... I had this really, really good job at Vivienne
Sounds
Westwood,
like it, yeah.
but quit on a whim, and then managed to got myself a place at Trinity College of Music, where I did a degree in fashion, not in fashion, I did a degree in jazz performance. And that is what started the serious part of my music career.
Yeah, amazing. So let's move on to the Puppini Sisters section. Like you said in your intro, the project that most people probably know you best for is the Puppini Sisters. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it first got started as a project?
We started because I'd left college. It was 2004. I'd graduated, and I really, really missed singing in the jazz choir. And Kate, the blonde Puppini sister, and I were both the tenors in the jazz club because there were no men, so we had to sing the low part. And we were really blended together. We worked really well together. So I immediately reached out to her and said, would you like to do some more singing together? And at that point, I didn't really have anything specific in mind other than I loved Manhattan Transfer and a lot of the vocal groups, the Andrew Sisters. I've always sung in harmony, even with my brother and sister when we were kids. Yeah. That's what we did. So I just reached out, said, do you want to do some singing? And she did. We got together with a third singer called Rosanna. We started learning Andrew Sisters and Boswell Sisters songs. Right. And it was, at that point, it was really just purely for the love of the music. Had nothing in mind. They would come over to mine. I would cook massive amounts of pasta, a couple of glasses of wine, and then we'd get going. And
sounds amazing.
It was fantastic fun. We realized quite quickly that we sounded pretty damn good. At that point, I'd graduated, so I was already working. I'd been working full time as a musician for the last 2 or 3 years. Even when I was in college, I was doing regular gigs at Café de Paris, and all around the West End, principally. And so I started reaching out to all the people that were booking me as a solo artist and told them about this new group that I had, as yet unnamed, and said, would you like to try us out? And we started doing just Andrew Sisters stuff, like all classical stuff, classic jazz rather, at that point. And people were going crazy about it. Also, because we put together a band with these guys that we knew from college, super hot jazz musicians. Yeah. So everywhere we went, people were amazed. And so we started getting booked all the time. Like we opened for a heavy metal band, all kinds of circumstances. We became regular fixtures at a club called the Shadow Lounge, which was a gay club in a former lap dancing club, which incidentally I had worked at as a waitress when it was still the lap dancing club while I was a student. In every circumstance, it worked. So we started sort of wanting to branch out a little bit, and I wanted to play at this night called Ducky, which is a gay night. And the beauty of them is that they call themselves purveyors of working class entertainment. So it's sort of very with an attitude, but also they've won Olivier Awards for their shows. Right. So both highbrow and working class. Yeah. Super cool underground cabaret. Yeah. My husband knew the organizers and he said, do you want these Puppini Sisters to perform? And the organizers said, what, like 3 girls who sing? And why would we be interested? And my husband had to think on his feet. And their anthem, the song that they played every single night was Wuthering Heights. Okay. So he said, oh, well, you should book them because they do a fantastic 3-part harmony swing version of Wuthering Heights. Right. And so we got booked on that premise, which was a false premise.
I was going to say, did that exist at the time?
No, not at all. Okay. And then with 2 weeks to get it ready, I set to work with my flatmate. Like I was at the piano doing the arrangement and my flatmate was shouting from next door, you can't do that to that song. But I did. You did, yeah. And I could. Yeah. And then we performed it at Ducky. And the thing about Ducky was, and probably still is, but I haven't been in a while, if they didn't like, because Ducky is a club, so it's mostly for dancing, and then they have one performer every weekend. If they didn't like you, and I had seen it happen, they would destroy you. Right. They would boo you violently off stage. Yeah. So we got on stage and to a sea of mostly that night burly men just crossing their arms and just going, what are you? Basically, their expression was saying. We started playing and that attitude morphed into, what are you? And then, what? Yeah. And then by the time we hit Wuthering Heights. Every single arm in the venue was swaying with us.
Yeah.
By the time we finished, the noise that they made was, I've never heard anything like it. Yeah. The screams.
Yeah.
That's when we knew. We thought, okay, yeah, we do have something. We started doing more and more of weird gigs until we actually got discovered by Universal.
Yeah.
They were looking for the next Jamie Cullum.
Okay.
So they were going around all the jazz colleges and auditioning jazz students. So we booked in for an audition, and we turned up in our little matching outfits, and pretty much a week later we were signed.
Once you got signed to Universal then, what was that like? Because most electro swing artists, certainly the ones I've spoken to so far, haven't really been tied to like majors. So I've not heard much experience of what that's like, and I'm very interested to know.
It's the ultimate, right? I remember, because I was on the jazz scene at the time, and I remember chatting to this guitarist who was referring to another singer who was possibly going to get signed to Universal, right. This singer that he was working with. And I was thinking, okay, shall I tell him?
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It just doesn't, you don't expect that it's going to happen, right? As a jazz singer, especially. It's just not something that's on your radar. But it did happen. And then all of a sudden we were being asked, who do we want as our producer? Do we want to work with? Like, if you can imagine all the greatest, we could ask for anybody. And we actually decided to go for not a producer, but a composer who'd worked on the soundtrack of the film that eventually inspired me to start the group.
Okay.
Because, I was saying earlier that I didn't have anything specific in mind. But then when I saw this movie called Belleville Rendezvous.
Ah, yeah. The animation, the French animation.
Yeah. That's what put it all into place.
Okay, cool. So you got to work with producers and composers of your choice. You've also collaborated with lots of big names as well, including Michael Bublé and some other massive names. So was that all part of the being signed to the major, or
weirdly,
how did those come about?
Not that, no.
Okay.
So many things. I mean, obviously a lot happened because of Universal, but so many things just happened later of their own accord. So we were on our third album by the time we met Michael Bublé. We'd done 2 normal albums, and then we did a Christmas album, and ours came out in 2010. It came out. And I remember I was in Italy at the time. It was the Christmas holidays, and our Christmas album had just come out, and I got a phone call randomly for the old managing director of Universal, who'd retired after signing us. And he said, Michael Bublé wants to talk to you. I went, okay. And then 5 minutes later, I got a call from an unknown number, and it wasn't him. It was this woman called Holly, who was his assistant, and said, hi, this is Holly. We want you to fly to LA to record with Michael. I thought, what is going on?
Yeah.
But it was, as we found out when we did fly out to LA to record, it was because he'd heard our Christmas album and immediately thought, this is the sound that I want for my own Christmas album. That old school sound that Bing Crosby did with the Andrews Sisters. And he specifically wanted to do Jingle Bells, which was one of the greatest successes from that collaboration. So we flew out to LA that June 2011, and we recorded at Capitol Studios. Incredible. And the band, like, I remember speaking to the bass player who was practicing the line from These Boots Are Made for Walking. And I said, oh, that's such a great bass line. And he said, do you like it? I wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last question about the Michael Bublé thing. What was he like?
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, we didn't become best friends afterwards, but we hung out for the whole time we were in LA. We hung out. He invited us over to his place. He took us out for dinner. And then when we went back to his, we were all around the piano having cocktails and singing Christmas songs together, impromptu. He's funny, he's generous, he's classy, a class act, as they used to say in the business. Yeah.
So you started off with the original lineup, and then in 2012 you were joined by Emma.
Yes.
So can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So actually, initially, the original redhead, I say that in inverted commas because she's not an actual redhead, was Rosanna Shora, who was the one that was coming over to do the rehearsals at my place, and she was doing the first gigs. But then within 6 months, she decided to leave because weirdly, because she is such an incredibly beautiful woman, that she was getting too much attention as a beauty and not enough attention as a serious musician. And, being in a girl group, it just all got too much for her, and she quit. So then we were joined by Stephanie O'Brien, who was also at college at Trinity. So I peripherally knew her, and she auditioned and got the gig really on the basis of her being a redhead, a natural redhead.
Yeah.
We had the brunette and the blonde, and she was there until 2012. That is also part of the Trouble story, which we may go into later. But eventually, in 2012, it was a question of it was her or me. In fact, I was going to leave, and then she decided to leave, and that's when we got joined by Emma. And Emma is one of my favorite people in the entire world. She is a hurricane of fun, chaos, brilliant musicianship. She brought a breath of fresh air into the band, because I was getting on really well with Kate already. But when there's 3 people and 2 of them don't always get on very well, and it's not always the same 2, at that point, there was conflict between Stephanie and either of us. With Emma, the conflict went away. And also Emma comes from the Royal Academy of Music. She comes from a musical background, like her parents are both really respected jazz musicians. Her grandfather was a band leader who worked with Frank Sinatra. She's been living and breathing jazz her entire life. And in fact, she's now pursuing a solo career as a jazz artist and doing extremely well.
Well, I was going to save this question for the quickfire round about challenges, but it feels like the natural point to discuss it. So let's talk about the challenges that you've alluded to.
The challenges are the same as they have been for every single band. When we started, I was already in my 30s, and Steph and Kate were like 19 and 20.
Okay.
I was a mentor. We got to the point where we got signed, did a first album, we started, our career took off. And then it seemed like there was resentment for the fact that I had all the good stories. If we were ever asked about where we came from and how we had started, some people would say I was in school and then I went to music college and then I got signed.
Yeah.
I had more going on, and that sort of created resentment. And
I mean, also the band is called the Puppini Sisters as well, right? So
yes,
and you're not biological sisters, so
no.
Clearly that sort of implies that you're like the leader.
I think that all of that, I understand it now. It's unfortunate that that's what it was, because you usually start with very similar life stories, and we didn't. Also the fact that I wasn't even born in this country, it just made it that I stood out. Not I stood out like in terms of talent, it was just more like I stood out as a sore thumb sometimes, because, we were very different. And eventually it was felt that my mentorship wasn't needed anymore, started to grate.
Right.
And then I started feeling a bit like I wanted to do other things as well. And that didn't go down well. And it was all the things that you expect from a band, where like eventually conflict always arises.
You said at one point it was either you or her.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was touch and go whether the band would have even continued at that point then, particularly if it had been you, because you can't be the Puppini Sisters without a Puppini.
I would have happily let them continue being the Puppini Sisters without me. I just would have gone and been Marcella Puppini somewhere else. Like I really was I was quite serious about it. I think it gets to the point where it's not worth hanging on to things that are so painful. I would rather just let it go and start afresh.
Yeah.
I've done that many times. So I don't know how it felt from her side, but from my side, like every time we went on tour, I would get anxiety, panic attacks a couple of days beforehand, and it wasn't workable anymore.
Yeah. And that's like the opposite of why you get into making music, isn't it? Like
Exactly.
obviously at that point it's your job and you're relying on it for money and stuff. But like when you start out, you dream of going on tours, and it's like this pleasurable fantasy that you want to achieve. So to then be having panic attacks because you're so worried about the bad vibes, like that's literally the opposite of why you get into it, isn't it? You mentioned that kind of coincided with you parting ways with Universal. Were they related?
No. I think that we had a weird arc with Universal because we got signed by Decca in the UK. Our first album went gold, the second one didn't. And that's when they kind of were done with us. So they basically dropped us, and we had an advance of like $1 million. Not that we didn't receive the $1 million, but they spent like between recording and going
Promo
on tour, everything. It was outrageous. So we would never have recouped. But the moment they let us go, and we signed to Verve in America, which is still Universal, but it's a different company. The slate was clean. So we were signed to Verve for that one album, the Christmas one. After that, clean slate again, and we got signed to Universal France. So it wasn't a dramatic exit from Universal.
So you've started your own label?
Yes. Yeah. Millionaire Records.
Amazing. Yeah. What are some of the key differences, I guess, or things that you have to do with your own label that you didn't have to do with a major? I mean, that might be a very open question.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it is, everything. Like you don't, it was lucky that I had seen how it was done with the 4 albums that we did with Universal. So I already knew how to do an album recording budget. So now we're in the middle of preparing a new album, which we're recording in September. Then at the same time, I'm organizing the photo shoot. And for the photo shoot, my tasks involve booking the studio, hiring the photographer, hair, makeup. I've got to do the styling. I've hired someone to work on the props with me. Everything that was done by the team before is done by me. The only things that I don't organize are the gigs. I don't book them and I don't plan them. So the tour manager does all the preparations for every gig, and that is, thank God for that, because I can't do that. That's another whole job in itself.
Do you like having more creative control, doing things independently, or do you wish that you could still outsource that to someone?
I mean, the answer is never black and white, is it? Because obviously I loved especially the budget that we used to get for things like that with Universal. So, you get the best studio. All you have to worry about is turning up and posing. That is quite nice. But at the same time, do I enjoy having creative freedom? Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, last question about the Puppini Sisters then. What are your plans for the future?
The album that we're working on at the moment, that's going to be our 20th anniversary album.
Amazing.
And it's coming out next year, which is the 20th anniversary of our debut album. And then we're going to go on tour, and then more of the same. It's just make albums, tour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
That's what we're doing.
Can you give us any sneak previews of stuff we might expect from the 20th anniversary album?
We're going back to our roots quite a bit with this album. I have discarded more arrangements and original songs for this album than anything else that we've done before, apart from our first album. We're really working on it in the same way as we were working on our first album. Just let's try something. Does it work? No. Throw it away. Do something else. So that everything that we're doing for it, we absolutely love.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, like we've done a few jazz standards as well, which we hadn't done in a while and which I really enjoyed. A couple of silly tracks as well as we do, a couple of originals. Because the last one that we did was a big band album. And in retrospect, I didn't enjoy it as much as the others. It was just too rigid. Whereas here we're having colors from other instruments rather than just big band horn section. So it's going back more to the sound that we like. And that really gets us.
Awesome. Well, we're very much looking forward to hearing that when it comes out. And that's next year. Do you have a release date in mind?
Not an official release date. It's going to be like sometime in April.
Okay. So moving on to your solo stuff now. That's an incredible career already with just the Puppini Sisters, and most people would be over the moon to have achieved that much. But you've also done loads of other stuff separately.
Yeah.
So can we talk about that?
From like 2005 until 2013, I had a band called Marcella and the Forget-Me-Nots, which started out as a mini orchestra and then turned into a sort of, I don't even know what to call it. It was like a rock band because it was guitar, bass and drums, me singing and a clarinet player. It was sort of a little bit orchestral still. We often had string players and it was quite theatrical and it was really, really fun. I stopped because the bass player tried to kill the drummer. And at that point, I just thought I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Had to.
Was that actually literally?
Literally. They went on holiday together to Argentina, where Pato, the bass player, was from. She got pissed off. I don't remember what the drummer had done to upset her, but she picked up a boulder and ran after her in the forest that they were at camping. Okay. So after that, I was briefly an orchestra, a big band conductor in Russia. I went on a tour of Siberia with this big band, but then I don't really know how to do it, so I stopped. And then I made a solo album that came out on Sony in 2015. That's
Everything is Beautiful.
Everything
is
is Beautiful,
yeah.
And then on that album, I had a collaboration with R.A. the Rugged Man. Amazing
Which I wanted to ask you about,
Yeah, amazing. And he and I have been talking about making an album for years. And in fact, we started making it back in 2017. Hugh Payen of Caravan Palace, the producer.
Oh my God, it's like
right,
dream album.
and then everybody got too busy. It didn't happen, and weirdly, recently we all reconnected. I'm off to France in September or in October to record with Hugo again. And so
for this album.
Okay. So it was totally unexpected, but that is happening. So that
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just for people who don't know about that song that you did already with R.A. the Rugged Man, it's called The Greatest.
The Greatest,
right?
Yeah. That came out on Freshly Squeezed as well as on the album. And as a single. Yeah. That was such a great and fun collaboration.
I can imagine. Did you know him already, or was this again a sort of label?
No,
Sony combining you two, or how did that come about?
No, not at all. No, it was we became friends because he reached out to me on Facebook. He loved the sound of the Puppini Sisters, and he had met this drummer that I know. It was one of those cases of meeting a drummer from London and asking her, "Oh, you're from London? Do you know Marcella Puppini?" And her saying, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah.
It was quite amazing. So then she introduced us, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And R.A. is actually a bit of a he loves a lot of the same stuff that my husband loves.
Right.
So stay connected as well. It just so happens that I've been a massive fan of hip hop myself all my life. I love hip hop.
Yeah.
So it was just the dream collaboration.
So it's the Electro Swing Podcast. So it'd be remiss of me to not talk about Electro Swing a little bit. Obviously, you're not just an Electro Swing artist, but you are adjacent to the scene, I would say.
Yeah, adjacent is the right word, because we're not actually, we're a jazz artist.
But you have worked with quite a few Electro Swing artists.
That's true. I've worked a lot with the Gentlemen Callers of Los Angeles, and then separately with Atom Smith. Love his work, love the Gentlemen, love Barton Baker. What I love about the scene is that it's all really, really lovely people. It's lovely people, great musicians, and the music is super infectious at its best.
Do you plan to do any more Puppini Sisters or even solo stuff with more of an Electro Swing slant to it?
Yeah. And,
okay.
and it'll be, extra medium, say Barton Baker, because they're great.
Yeah.
Really great. I also really love Rogan. He's such a lovely guy, but also he's a musician. So he always adds very interesting things to the songs. Like he really brings a specific voice.
Are there any Electro Swing artists that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with?
I wouldn't mind working with Power of Stella, but apart from that, I think I've worked with all the people that I really like.
Quick fire round. If you could collaborate with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Prince or Stormzy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wicked, yeah, okay. We've had Prince a couple of times already. No one's mentioned Stormzy before that, so that's cool. What is something outside of music that your fans would be interested to learn about you?
I'm a great cook. Kate and I have written a cookbook. And if I ever quit music, I think I'd go into some kind of cooking related activity.
And any final words for your fans?
Thank you for listening. That's, it's really amazing to see how people connect with music. And in today's world, we're so lucky to be able to speak directly to the fans. Every time that I send an email to the Puppini Sisters fans, there's always a few people that will write back with anecdotes about their own lives or something, some funny reply. And it's a joy. It's really beautiful.
And then last question, is there anything coming up that you would like to plug or shout out or just generally draw people's attention to?
We will be announcing our tour, UK tour, quite soon. So look out for that. Join our mailing list if you haven't yet, because we always give little gifts to people that join the mailing list.
Cool.
That's the thing that's happening soonest.
Wicked. Okay. And the 20th anniversary album is hopefully coming out sometime in April next year.
It will be April. Yeah, I think so.
So thank you very, very much for your time, Marcella. And
absolute pleasure. And great questions as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, even better answers, some real fascinating insights into the music industry and your journey. And thank you for being so open as well.
Thank you.
It's been really, really good to chat. So thanks very much. So that was episode 13 of the Electro Swing Podcast with Marcella Puppini. As always, links to her music can be found below, both with the Puppini Sisters and her solo projects. If you haven't already, please follow us at Electro Swing Podcast on all platforms. And if you want a heads up on future guests and a chance to ask them your questions, join our mailing list at electroswingpodcast.com. I'm Offbeat, and I'll be back in another 2 weeks with another episode of the Electro Swing Podcast. And thank you for tuning in.